I'm already getting incredible amount out of what I do. And you tell me that you're going to pay me for that? Do not pick a job. Pick a boss. The right boss will make or break your career. The right boss at the right job will inspire you, will fuel you, will make you something that you are meant to be. But the wrong kind of boss, even in the right job, doesn't matter how much it pays or what the company may be, will make your life absolutely miserable. Even the thing that you're best at, you would hate it. You need to be able to connect to whom you're engaging with, whether it is the guest or the team. That's how you create a community around you. And community, it might be a working community, as in your team. And a hotel is a hotel is a hotel. What makes the difference, what sets the tone is that human element. So that is the key thing, that little nugget, so to say, that creates the home away from home feeling.
Today, we're talking about the future of concierge services in hospitality, and I invited Burak Ipekci, who is award-winning head concierge and guest services professional at the Royal Horse Guards Hotel in London, also the general secretary for Recruitment, the Golden Keys, a professional association of hotel concierge with 4,000 members in 80 countries and 530 destinations. Burak, welcome to the show.
Hello, Mauricio. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We just have an awesome discussion before, and I'm so glad to have you here to talk about concierge services and the future of concierge services because, as I said, guest experience is the heart of our industry, and I believe that concierge services is what keep the heart beating.
The basics.
That's why I have you here, Burak, because so many hotels out there still don't get it. So many hotels out there still think that they are just a bed and breakfast, and they complain about their pricing and the ADR in every single moment, blaming everything else and not thinking about the guest experience. Let's start with your journey and try to understand, how did your career lead you to the world of concierge services?
I am one of those lucky souls, I guess. I found my calling very early in life. Hence my name. Biologically, I'm Turkish. I was born and raised in Turkey. Happened to have lived in different parts of the world throughout my life. But I found my calling at age 17, just before I started uni, for a summer job. And I never looked back. I got involved in a restaurant for summer. And that was it for me. All I wanted to do was interact with people because at age 17, if we set the scene right, somebody says, you're going to go get to talk to people. You're going to have fun. You are already interested in people. So you're going to learn about them. You're going to make friends. You're going to solve their problems. Oh, and at the end of the month, we're going to put money in your pocket for doing all that. And I'm like, whoa, winning. So making a decision to study hospitality management was an organic one. Throughout my uni years, I worked for a travel agency because I needed something a little more stable and set hours than working in a hotel environment. And those who are listening know that, especially in the earlier days of our career, hotel life is a bit brutal. You work early mornings, late nights, overnights, and you work 5-day weeks, 6-day weeks, sometimes 7-day weeks, because that's just the nature of the beast. And studying and running that at the same time was rather difficult. So I worked for a travel agency for a while. I cooked professionally for a while. But as soon as I came to the tail end of my educational journey, front of house was the key thing, because as I said, that was the key thing that called me to the hotels anyway. I was genuinely interested in people. I loved making connections. That's what tickled me. Came back to front of house, reception, guest services. And then back in 99, and at the time I was in New York, I went for a job interview for a really well-known company and their biggest hotel in New York. And it was the biggest hotel in New York City. And I went through a 7 interview process, 7 tiers of meeting people, meeting HR, meeting this, meeting that. And my last interview was with the then director of rooms. And she said, and I applied for front office supervisor. 99, I'm at that stage, I'm 25 years old. You know, that's the next big step in my career. She said, you got a job, but it's not the job that you applied for. And I said, okay. Said, don't worry, I'm going to pay you what you applied for as well. So you're not going to lose any income per se, but I don't want you to come as a front office supervisor. I said, why not? She said, because the feedback that I've gotten and the interaction we had, you are genuinely a people person. And I said, yes. Said, and now if I bring you in as a front office supervisor, I know that within 8 to 12 months, you're going to absorb all the information that you need and you're going to move on. And I think you'll be an asset and I want to keep you. And I said, okay, what's the idea then? What's the big idea? I said, why don't you come as a concierge? And at that point, I've been only living in New York for a few years. And those of you who are listening to this exchange know that being a concierge requires far more than knowing your right and left in a city. It's far more involved. And I said, I've never worked as a concierge in my life. I haven't been in New York long enough. And I don't know New York deep enough to do the job in a rightful way. He said, I'm not worried about that. You got the right attitude. I know that you're going to pick it up. No problem whatsoever. And I said, okay. And I never looked back. That was 1999. I quickly got involved with the concierge community in New York City. And I started serving on the board of directors for New York City Concierge Association. Subsequently, just before 9/11, I moved to Parker Meridian during their Air France to Starwood transition. Sort of picked up my knowledge per se in terms of brand management, brand change and all that. In 2005, while serving as a president for New York City, I have relocated to London. Stayed away from the concierge community for a while. I needed to get my head straight to see if that's what I wanted to pursue. And plus, changing cities as a concierge, especially when you talk about cities like London, New York to London, is not necessarily an easy feat. Back in 2013, I returned back to Concierge World. I quickly started running projects for Claydor. At the time, I was at the South Place Hotel here in London, a boutique property. So from my original home, from 2,000 plus rooms, I went down to 85 rooms, 86 rooms, which allowed me to spend more quality time with my guests. From South Place, I moved over to Andaz, set up their first ever concierge desk, moved over to Westbury. From Westbury, moved to Hilton Metropole with 1,000 plus rooms, again, largest Hilton property outside the US. And then from there, I moved to my current hometown at the Royal Horse Guards. But along the way, going parallel to my hotel journey, I got more and more involved with Le Claydor, started running projects for Claydor, and then got dragged into becoming Assistant General Secretary in 2017. And 2 years later, quickly moved on to becoming the General Secretary and been at that post since. I'm currently the second longest serving General Secretary in the history of the organization. As you mentioned earlier on, I got thousands of members reporting to me in 4 corners of the world. I tend to travel a fair bit. I'm grateful that I have a tolerant hotel who allows me to do what I need to do for the concierge community globally. So between my family life, my hotel life, and my Claydor life, I am I'm split into 3 in many respects, each and every one of them with incredible amount of joy.
That's a fantastic career, Burak. And what I hear here is, one, fall into hospitality and falling in love with that, because that's true, that it sounds to you at least that being paid for it is unreal, right? You would do for free.
I mean, especially as a concierge, strip everything away. I am not a slim guy, okay? Those of you who are not seeing anything below my chest line, trust me, I carry a weight. That's a direct outcome of the fact that I enjoy life. I like dining out. I'm interested in gastronomy. I'm interested in wine. Well, concierge provides you that because I'm expected to go and have the pulse of the city at all times. So I get to do that. I am in a lobby 10 hours a day, talking to people in all walks of life, carrying more passports from various countries than I would care to count. And I am there helping them, supporting them, guiding them, making sure they have the best experience in my adopted home as I do on a daily basis. And as I said in the beginning, somebody says, oh, by the way, you done a great job. Here's money for you because I'm going to pay you for that work. Come on. It's unbeatable. Unbeatable.
Now you're joking.
I'm already getting incredible amount of kick out of what I do. And you tell them that you're going to pay me for that? Time to bring it on.
Sorry to interrupt. If you're enjoying this show and if you're learning something new today, please consider following the show, subscribe to our channel, or leave us a review. It helps us to help more people through the podcast, and it would mean the world to us. Thank you for listening, and we're back on the chat. And I would like to make a mention to that fantastic leader that interviewed you for one position and saw in you a potential, and not only the potential that you have in yourself, but understanding that you would absorb the knowledge that you needed for your position very, very quickly. And once we stop learning, life stop being exciting. And I believe that she saw very well, you will get bored and we will lose you. So there is something better.
100%. I am fortunate enough because of my position, because of the exposure I have, I get to talk to students a lot. I get to talk to people who are in the early stages of their career. And I say this again and again, do not pick a job, pick a boss. The right boss will make or break your career. The right boss at the right job will inspire you, will fuel you, will make you something that you are meant to be. But the wrong kind of boss, even in the right job, doesn't matter how much it pays or what the company may be, will make your life absolutely miserable. Even the thing that you're best at, you would hate it. That mentorship, that guidance, that spark in the eye will set the tone for life.
That's a really good message, Burak. Thank you very much. That's an amazing message. And you describe yourself as someone who likes to blend the procedure, like a personality, and create that home away from home. Just as you said, you get to try everything and then tell people. How does it really look like into the hotel environment? How can you blend that? How can you get that passion and that knowledge and tailor an experience for the right guest?
But the key thing, especially in our line of work, and this applies to hospitality at large as well, is empathy. You need to be able to connect to whom you're engaging with, whether it is the guest or the team. That's how you create a community around you. And community, it might be a working community, as in your team. And I can't be everywhere, right? And my team go out and they're different age groups. They experience different things and we share their information. So on one hand, that fuels me. I gain new knowledge from them as I'm sharing my knowledge with them. But also by that workplace community, you relay that over to the guests. So on one hand, you're using your management skills. On one hand, you're utilizing your hunger for knowledge. On the other hand, you're blending the two and guide your team to serve your guests. When you do that, by default, it is genuine. By default, it is organic. I mean, I look at my experiences when I go to restaurants or when I go and stay at hotels, or when I even get on a plane, even though it might feel transactional because it's only for an hour or two, whatever the destination may be. How did that make me feel? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to a hotel, like I said in the beginning, it's a TV and a bed, right? Of course, the decorative order changes, the postcode changes, the building might be a new build or it might be a historical building, but a hotel is a hotel is a hotel. What makes the difference, what sets the tone is that human element. So how did that make me feel? So that is the key thing, that little nugget, so to say, that creates the home away from home feeling. It's not just how comfortable the bed that you slept on is. Oh, of course, it plays a role. Don't get me wrong. That's why hotels invest huge amounts of money to get the right bed, to right sheets with the count and whatever it may be, or the right technology for their TVs and that they can stream. Of course, that has a role. But when guest leaves a feedback on one of the portals, they don't leave a note about or a feedback about how good the technology was. They leave a note about how comfortable they were, how homey it was, how relaxed it was, how approachable the team was, how cheerful the greeting that they received from the doorman was, how helpful the concierge was, how smooth their check-in, check-out process was. And that's what sets the tone. So the way to do it is creating that organic relationship among the team, but from the team to the guest. Because the moment you fake it, they can smell it. They can smell it a mile away.
That's very important because it's more than just service, right? It's a human connection. And you said so right. Like if you get a hotel that has a great bed, has all the technology in the room, and has everything else that you would expect that a very high quality product would be, but it's missing that human element. is still empty.
It's a bed factory. It is not a hotel because it's not an experience. It's a bed factory. It's accommodation. And that's the difference between a hotel and an accommodation. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to belittle any product line out there because there definitely is a place for accommodation in this world. There are people who are just there for a bed, a pillow, so they can wake up early in the morning and take their flight out, you know? And that's perfectly fine. Or they're there for a meeting and they're going to come back to their room at midnight to crash for 6 hours, wake up at 6:30 in the morning, go back to the airport and fly out. There is a place for that accommodation. But if what you're seeking is a hotel, that requires a story, that requires an experience. And the only way you can achieve it is with the people in it, is with the people who are providing that service, the people who are greeting people, the people who are shaking hands, the people who are sitting in the lobby having a cup of coffee with their guests in the afternoon when they come back from the meeting, just to understand what their mindset is. Because time is luxury. And in this day and age, that's the only thing that matters.
That's a very powerful message. And when it comes to what do you think that's the biggest challenge facing concierge teams or departments today, especially when it comes to independent hotel?
I don't think you can single concierge teams out. I think the industry-wide problem we have, doesn't matter where you're in the world, is recruitment. In the post-pandemic world, recruitment has been a nightmare. Identifying the right talent, finding committed individuals who are eager to get into hospitality business are far and few in between. So recruitment is, I believe, doesn't matter if you're looking at a concierge perspective, a front of house, engineering, F&B, is recruitment.
You mentioned now that recruitment, and it's hard to find the people willing to do what hospitality requires. Can you elaborate on that?
There are two sides to it. Our industry is very much a personality-driven, personal commitment-driven industry. As I mentioned earlier on, in our earlier days going through the ranks, we do crazy hours, crazy days. It's a tough industry because when you're learning the craft, when you're learning the do's and don'ts of this industry, you work a lot and you're expected to absorb all that information. It shapes you. But going through those motions, it's a laborious task. I am sadly sensing that the current younger generation, it's too much of an effort for them, or at least a certain segment of them. And they're giving up without even trying. I guarantee you, if they were to have a taste for the industry and what that represents, because hospitality is not a job. If anybody's going into hospitality thinking that it's a job, they're fooling themselves. This is a lifestyle. That engagement with people, that dynamism, that constant learning, the sometimes transactional, sometimes I'm going to save the world energy that it has. It's a lifestyle. If you think you're just coming to a job, you're going to quickly realize the fact that you don't work 9 to 5. Sometimes you're not going to even have Christmas off. Sometimes you're going to come to the hotel, you know what time you're starting, but it's going to get so crazy that you don't know what time you're going to get out, and you find yourself working 8, 10, 12-hour days. So if you're shy of that effort, you're never going to get a taste for it. If you don't get a taste for it, from the get-go, you're going to give up. And the current generation, I sometimes fear, are not necessarily afraid of it, but they don't know what that represents, and therefore they give up even before they start. Partially, I guess it's our fault, our generation's fault. We have always told them that they can be whatever they want to be in life, but I think some of us fail to tell them that they also have to work for it. And this industry definitely requires you to work for it, because that's the only way you can grow. I can build rapport with any guest. It doesn't matter where they've come from. It doesn't matter where they are from, because I've been there. I can describe them any restaurant and tell them what dish to eat, because I've been there and I have eaten that dish. I can sit down and talk about wine with a guest of mine for hours on end because I had that wine. Because you can't fake our industry. The moment you try to fake it, the guest on the other side of that conversation will know that you're faking it. And then by default, the authenticity is gone. The moment the authenticity is gone, it's worthless. So I fear that we have a rather steep hill ahead of us that we need to climb to attract the new generation into the fold. There comes the work that we need to do and the senior management needs to do in respective hotels. Because I'm not just talking about a concierge perspective over here. I'm talking an industry-wide issue, a crisis, if you know what I mean. I wish it was just a concierge-specific problem and I could just snap my finger and give you a solution or two. I think it's a much wider industry-wide issue.
No, 100%. I'm even going to speak now about talent attraction at the World Tourism Forum, and how to change the perception of the industry is probably one of our biggest challenges. And you said everything, like hospitality is not a job, it's a lifestyle. Now, I believe that we set up a very hard lifestyle for ourselves as well from the past, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Winter for punishment, that's for sure. Without a doubt, without a doubt. And I completely agree with you. We need to communicate what we do better and what the rewards are, because it is an incredibly rewarding industry. Because you're constantly learning. I always say this. I mean, I get to do the same thing essentially every single day. But as I do it for different people, every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, every hour, every day, it feels different. It keeps you fresh. It keeps you engaged. And while you're doing it, even though you can make the counter argument that you're performing the same task again and again, it's the same restaurant, it's the same transfers, it's the same problem solving, it's the same lost passport or stolen phone, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, you're actually doing it with a different individual. And every single day you have the opportunity to turn everything around and make that person's stay a magical one. I am the self-appointed baby cuddler in the lobby. No guest with a baby in their arms can pass by the lobby without stopping by. That's my job. And that's one of the things that I get a kick out of. And everybody stares at me like, why are you cuddling strange people's babies? I'm like, because I like babies. So find your niche, find what tickles you, but find it. And that's the only way we're going to move forward.
That's right. But do you think that the industry undervalues the role of concierge?
I think it is more misunderstanding or not understanding enough than being undervalued. Because once you have a taste of having a good concierge in your lobby, you don't look back. Because it changes the dynamic of the property. It changes that whole sense of being, sense of arrival, sense of departure. And even among the team, because if you have a seasoned concierge who's been doing this for a while, they don't just do it for their guests whom they're serving. They also do it for the staff. So the dynamics within the team changes, the way that people interact. Everything becomes a little more flamboyant. It becomes a little more story-like rather than simple transactional. So I think it's more about not understanding enough than being undervalued.
Great. And if we would understand, we just spoke about talent, right? That it's hard to display what we do and attract this new generation, you said. But you also being able to build a strong team that you said around you that can feed you with information and be a successful concierge. So how can hotels attract young talent to this role? Because is it seen as a tech forward role or is more classic role?
Both. We're expected to be proactive. So attack is the word, but attack with standards, attack with pedigree. I think the easiest way, and two of my team members actually fall in that category, is getting young talent right out of school before they are calloused about what they think they should do with life. Just bring them young and say, listen, give me 6 months, spend some time with me. Let me teach you the ropes. The moment they have a taste, they won't look back. Because and I'm not just talking about concierge perspective. I'm talking about hospitality at large. This is a fun industry. This is a dynamic industry. You're constantly quick on your feet, running around, learning things, and it's instant gratification. You get the results of the work that you do very quickly. Because all you have to do is just look at the guests in the eye and you can see that beaming smile that you have achieved it. You made their day. You made that stay, that visit, that whole first time in London experience magical. You set the tone for what they should expect from the next hotel they go in. And that is soul fulfilling. So my aim has always been creating that conveyor belt. I like hiring youngsters. I like training them. I like supporting them. I like infecting them per se with the energy of this industry. Because that's how I started. And that's what I know best. And I know that it works. Because somebody, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be somebody who's curious out there, always wanted to be in the hospitality industry, but never had the opportunity. And they come in, and even later in life, no problem at all. They're always welcome too. But I think the magic over here is bringing them young into the business and giving them the knowledge, giving them that enthusiasm, because they grew up with that. It defines them as it defined me.
So you believe that the job of hospitality, the job in hospitality that actually gets you to stay in hospitality, would you think, how can I frame that? Would you say that school is a barrier for bringing young talent to hospitality?
No, I mean, I studied hospitality management as well. And there's a time and place for that. Just because you're a good concierge doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a good chef concierge. Okay. Management skill is a different skill than doing the job itself. I don't think you can be a good manager for a job without doing the job itself, 100%. But just because you're good at your job, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're qualified to be a good manager. Because those are two, people management is a different beast, because you're dealing with individuals' emotions. And doing that for guests is, in a way, transactional, because the guest is going to be there for 1, 2, 5, 8, 10 nights. And after that, they're going to shake your hand and say, thank you for everything. And they're going to go back home. You don't necessarily have to manage their needs all the time. But with a team working for you, there is that growth. There is that two-way interaction. You're personally invested in that individual, even though you want to keep that boss versus team member energy to a certain extent, but it's only to a certain extent. There's a personal involvement. So the best way to sell this business, so to say, is actually being in the business, because once they get a taste of it, they will stay in it, because it's dynamic, it is fun, it's engaging, you're constantly learning, constantly growing. And as I said, at the end of the month, your boss says, oh, by the way, thank you, here's some money for you for that. Well, what better way of living, right? But again, along the way, throughout your journey, you'll pick up things, and then you're like, okay, hold on a second. I'm not just good at it. I can go one level up, and I can be an assistant department head, or I can be a department head. Or hold on a second, I think I've run my course in concierge world, and I have a really good, thorough understanding in the hotel business. Because as a concierge, I always liken us to a bottleneck. Everything that happens outside a hotel that requires hotel access goes through us. And vice versa. Everything that happens inside the hotel that requires outside access, again, goes through us. So when you are a seasoned concierge, or you do this business long enough, you actually have a rough understanding of pretty much every element within the roof that you're working in. From housekeeping to front desk, maybe you're not an expert in all of them, but you become a jack of all trades. You know what the moving parts are. So maybe after working as a concierge for a while, you're going to say, maybe I should move on to reception, or maybe with this interpersonal skills, I should move on to sales and more deal with events. So you can find your path. Just because you started as a concierge doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to remain as a concierge for the rest of your career. Although I have to admit, once you become a concierge and have a taste for that, we rarely move away. A lot of people tease me, like, with all the knowledge you have, all the history you have, you even studied hospitality management, why didn't you become a hotel manager at GM? Because I got no interest. I got absolutely zero interest. I can look at a P&L sheet and do my part, no problem whatsoever. But do I see myself as a person who looks at a computer monitor for an entire day trying to sort of stay on top of a P&L sheet and let that be my career path? Absolutely not. Because the reason why I got into this business is people, not a computer or not an Excel spreadsheet.
That's awesome, Burak. That's awesome. Your passion for people is just amazing. And we are talking about learning all this time, right? And having the role. And how can training programs better prepare new team members to succeed in concierge roles, and what that training looks like?
We actually had an in-house chat about this at all the senior management just last week. I think in hospitality setting, it's a two-pronged thing. I think, one, you have to give the basics and the guidelines on a module way, so that the individual can go in, absorb it. And even currently in a hotel setting, we go and do IT training and a fraud training, and all those basics, they come in, because those are the building blocks of how one should operate in a working environment, hotel and otherwise. But the beauty of hospitality is that a lot of the things you actually learn on the job, by shadowing somebody, by somebody mentoring you, somebody getting involved directly with your path and looking at this spark in the eye and figuring out where you fit in that big puzzle called hotel, just as it was done to me. And the individual who picked me, I still keep her as a sort of an icon in my life, as a guiding light in my life, because it takes talent, somebody being able to look at you in the eye and say, Mauricio, you really shine at this. Why don't you pursue this avenue? And guide you, hold your hand. Well, I look at my team. One of them is incredible with guests, but the other one is absolutely magical with admin work. So the one with the guests, I know that he's going to deal with people for the rest of his life. Doesn't matter if it's hospitality, doesn't matter if it's retail, doesn't matter if it's an office setting, being an office manager, whatever it is, but he's going to deal with people for the rest of his life because he's absolutely magical with people. But the other one has the management skill because has the admin skills. He's on top of emails, his language when he responds to emails. So one side, going back to your core question, there's definitely a place for classroom learning or modules that you do online and get the basics, the building blocks to put everything on top of. But the beauty of hospitality is on the job learning. Somebody guiding you, somebody supporting you, somebody training you, whether it's a structured mentorship format or boss to a team member, and they go hand in hand in our line of work. And that's the best part. And on top of it, if you're ambitious enough, and if you're going to try to squeeze a degree course at a university or at an educational facility to excel in what you're doing, to open the path for further learning, more power to you. But you have to have the time management to do all of that.
That's the tough part. And if a hotel doesn't currently have a concierge service, where should they start?
I mean, look, if an individual has come to a point in their career where they're the general manager of a hotel, one would assume that they already have connections within the community, whether with another general manager or they would know a concierge whom they worked with before. If it's an independent property that they're leading or a new opening where they need to create a concierge department, reach out to a fellow GM who will introduce you to a seasoned concierge. Reach out to a concierge whom you worked before. Ask them to come in, have a cup of coffee, give them the mission statement of what your hotel is, what you're trying to create, what sort of an energy you're after. Because not everybody is fit for every property. I'm a seasoned concierge. I've been a concierge since 1999. Just because I've been around for 25, 26 years, I'm a good fit with everywhere. Okay. There are a lot of brands out there, lifestyle brands. No disrespect to anybody in the way they work, but I am off-brand. I am a middle-aged man. I would not fit in their guest profile. So just because I'm a good concierge doesn't necessarily mean that I am fit over there. But you can always bring me in and we can sit down, have a cup of coffee and say, Burak, I need somebody who fit this brief. Can you guide me? And I'll make a couple of calls. You'll make a couple of calls and we'll find the right person to fit the energy of the hotel, what you're trying to create. Because at the end of the day, the concierge is the host. Think of a restaurant setting. You know? There's the general manager of the restaurant, and there's a chef in the background, but there's the maitre d', the person who sets the tone in that dining room, knows the regulars, knows the martini that they enjoy or the wine they enjoy, greets them in person, gives them a hug and a kiss. This is what a concierge is in a hotel setting. So whom you bring in to lead that lobby, lead that sense of arrival, that sense of being, will set the tone for the hotel that you're trying to run.
Awesome answer. And if you would think of 3 simple steps or actions that this GM or the front desk manager could take tomorrow to elevate their concierge offerings, right? Either if they have a concierge service, a desk or not. What 3 single steps that they could do tomorrow and take some action?
And let's split into 2. If they already have a concierge operation running, doesn't matter how basic or complex it may be, first of all, sit down and have a team powwow with them. Share your vision on how you see the hotel's energy is, and equally hear from them what they observe, both the guest as well as the hotel's overall state of being. Share with them openly what your vision is, where you want to take this going, and ask them what they need. we're outspoken people. We're not shy people. By default, we are communicative. We're open. But you have to ask the question, because a lot of people, to team members, to senior management, they get shy. They're not expressive because they don't want to sort of cross the boundary. Ask them the question. Ask them to be frank about it. Have a two-way dialogue. So simple step, share your vision, ask their feedback, and talk about what next is or should be, what they can deliver and how you can support them. Communication is everything. And if you do not have a pre-existing concierge team, find somebody who can sort of help guide you through those choppy waters. Find the right people that would fit the branding, the energy of the hotel, help support you on what the processes are or should be, and turn it into a dialogue. Again, as the first scenario, communication is everything. We're expected to do this with our guests. I think we need to do that more frequently among ourselves too.
That's so right, isn't it? It's all about communication with guests, but we fail so much in communicating internally.
Yes, without a doubt, and sadly so.
And talking about communication, I have a question here from a common friend from Custodia Barreiros, the one that introduced us. And he asked a question actually on LinkedIn as a community question that we always open the floor for the community to share some questions that they have with our guests. And his question is, how are Le Clef d'Or members using technology to enhance the perfect balance of personal and human service every concierge provides its guests, especially with the rising noise of AI in our industry?
First of all, there's no cookie cutter answer to this. As you well know, AI and what that represents is literally evolving daily, not even monthly, not even yearly, daily. Every day you hear of a new AI agent running in the background. Every day you hear a new module being raised and being trained and so on and so forth. For the past couple of years, we have successfully brought in some industry friends. Every year, but for those who do not know, us as CEO members get together annually. Last year, we were in magical Bali. This year, just about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were in Madrid. And next year's conference is confirmed for Sydney. And as a part of the Congress, of course, like every other non-for-profit, we have legal elements that we need to do, elections and annual general meeting and voting and so on and so forth. That's allocated as a segment of the event. But one day we allocated solely for training, for educational purposes. So for the past 2 years, we have partnered with one of the industry bigwigs who provides software solutions for hotels, especially for concierges. They have kindly agreed on coming on board and running workshops with us. Last year in Bali, we also had support from our friends at Forbes Travel Guide, from Microsoft, from Chain of Clarity, and Allianz, who came on board and did a 3-way talk about AI, how to apply it on a day-to-day basis, and spend the other half of the day running AI workshops with all our members and creating challenges and so on and so forth. This year in Madrid, as a follow-up to that, we converted that data, those learnings, into figures and facts that our members can have a takeaway from to their properties, to their teams. So provided percentages and how we change things, how we modify things. And again, just like last year, we also had a 3-way conversation, living room conversation based on how the hotels, travel agents, and concierges do interact or should interact. So we have to evolve with technology itself. I come from a generation where when I got into the business, internet started in a conventional sense, the way we use today. And I very clearly remember people, literally, pardon my French, but freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, internet is going to take our jobs away. And I remember setting up an intranet for the concierge team at my first property and put everything in one place. They're like, oh my God, that makes our life super easy. I'm like, exactly, that's what it is for. It's a tool, but you need to know how to use the tool. But fast forward 25 years, AI is the same scenario. Everybody's like, oh my God, all jobs are going to be gone. Well, yes, maybe it's going to impact our industry, but you have to know how to use it. If you see it as a threat, it will be a threat to you. If you see it as a tool, it will aid you, it will support you, it will guide you. On a day-to-day basis, I have a AI module that I have trained on ChatGPT, and I use it as a PA, both in terms of, because I create agents as well, to run tasks for me. But sometimes I use it either for learning or bouncing ideas. So if you see it as a threat, believe you me, it will be a threat. But if you see it as a tool, a guide, a support, it will be exactly that.
100%. It's a tool in the end of the day, right?
Without a doubt. And that's the message that I would like us to convey to public, not just our members for Credor, but to general public. The moment you are threatened by it, trust me, it will pose a threat to you. The moment you learn, absorb, and utilize it, it will be your best friend. So it ends and starts with you as the individual, as the professional. And that's the message we're trying to give to our members during our congresses.
As they say, you will not be replaced by AI, but will be replaced for someone that uses AI.
Sadly so. Sadly so.
But I could think about the future of concierge, really. Yeah. What do you believe that concierge service will look like in 5 to 10 years from now?
Let me give you the same answer that I've given at a meeting about 3 weeks ago. When I first got into the business 25 years ago, first time concierge, you used to walk into a hotel. At the desk, there will be 4 concierges and 15 people at the reception. 25 years later, you walk into the same lobby, there's still 4 concierges, but there are only 4 reception. Because in this day and age, technology is so advanced that as long as you have a good admin person sitting in the back, doing all the transactions and room allocations and so on and so forth, the guests check themselves in on their mobile phone. 9 out of 10 times, especially in larger hotels or big chains, they don't even stop at the reception desk. They check themselves in on the app. The app also has a room key. They give the, access to the room, and on their way out, done, and the bill gets automatically emailed to their account. But you still have the 4 concierges in the lobby because our job is not transactional. What we do is not transactional. What we're there for is that sense of belonging, sense of being. So I don't fear for the future of concierge work. I don't fear for the Credor members and their career progression. Of course, there's going to be adjustments. Of course, 100%. Because as I said earlier on, the difference between a hotel and accommodation, there are going to be properties which will streamline their existence. And they're going to say, you know what, we're going to strip down, we're just going to provide accommodation. And that's their prerogative. If that's the avenue that they want to go for, they're more than welcome to do so. But if your line of business, where you want to exist as an entity, not just only as a property, but as a company, if your business is experiences, that's what we're there for. We are the ones who create those relationships. We are the ones who build those relationships. We are the ones who connect the hotels with the local vendors, local partnerships. That's what we've been doing. That's what we'll continue to do.
I love the angle that you took that answer, because Jeff Bezos once got asked the same question about Amazon, what Amazon will look like in 10 years. And he answered, I cannot tell you how the world will look like in 10 years. Nobody can. The only thing that I can do is what will not change in 10 years, because there are things that they don't change, and there are things that change. We can't control what changes, but we can notice what doesn't change. And he said that for Amazon, all he thinks about is what will not change, and then that's what he targets. In the case of Amazon, is he can't see any individual buying a book and wanting the book to take 3 months to arrive in their home. You want instant gratification. You want to buy the book and get the book, right? And this instant gratification, he says, this will never change. So that's what we work on for Amazon. And now it would be the same thing when you think about hotels, right? If you look back and see all the difference in the reception role, you can see a ton of difference, and you can see that is decreasing the, let's say, importance of the human element there, because you have all these technologies behind doing what before we're doing manually. However, the concierge service, that human approach, that community, that belonging is still something that the guests want to feel when you come to a strange place, a city that you don't know, country that maybe you know don't speak the language, and that feeling of belonging is still something that won't change as a human behavior.
That definitely is the case, because at the end of the day, our Our role is not transactional, Mauricio. It is transactional. I mean, they're definitely, I can run a report and say like, okay, in the past week, we have booked X number of restaurants for our guests and X number of transportations and sourced this many things and so on. So there's a transaction element to it that you can keep track of. But as a concierge, our job is more emotional. And the moment you involve emotion, it requires human.
Burak, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be more than just helpful, who wants to truly elevate guest experiences?
Show your personality. Show your personality. Learn from your guests. Look, it's a training ground. Going back to what I was saying earlier on, I can build rapport with any individual whom I encounter with because I have spoken to them. I've been in their shoes. I've been to the city that they're from. I have eaten the restaurant that they want to eat at. I have had the glass of wine that they enjoy drinking. Grow with it. Absorb that information and then let it flow. Share that. And not only with the guests, but also with the team around you. You're not going to take that knowledge, that experience, that you to your grave. That would be such a waste. Share that with people. Share that emotion. Share that knowledge. Share. Give and take. Because when you share, you also somebody shares back with you. You learn. You grow, and then you have more material to share. So be open. Let it flow. Grow with it.
That's an awesome message. That was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing this passion that you have for hospitality. It's so inspiring. How can our audience get in touch with you, maybe get that coffee with you and learn more about their concierge services?
I am most probably the easiest person to find. LinkedIn most probably is the easiest way to locate me. Drop a line. I always respond. I am a prolific user of LinkedIn because I love connecting people. I love collecting things, and I'm not shy about my network. So please feel free to reach out, add me on LinkedIn, ask questions, connect with me. Absolutely no problem whatsoever.
Thank you, Burak. So I'll put the link of your LinkedIn on the show notes as well, so people can reach out to you. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for lending your knowledge, your time, and sharing this passion, because that's what we need. We need more people to share this passion for hospitality and inspire young talent that they can find this beautiful adventure that is hospitality and have fun at work and even get paid for it. Burak, thank you so much. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.